Powered by Rev Media in partnership with TSN, it is season 6 of the Ray and Dregs Hockey Podcast, presented by our title sponsor, Tim Hortons. Celebrating the return of warmer weather is a Canadian rite of passage, and trying new drinks in Tim's cold beverage lineup is the perfect way to toast the season. Their new Oreo Mocha Ice Cap is a bit of a twist on Tim's iconic ice cap, made even more irresistible with the blend of mocha flavor, Oreo cookie pieces in every delicious sip. And backed by popular demand, the epic Oreo double stuffed ice cap with Oreo cookie crumble. You've got vanilla syrup, vanilla flavored whipped toppings, and even more Oreo cookie crumble on top. And Ray Ferraro, you're getting ready for perhaps what could be the deciding game of the Eastern Conference. The Eastern Conference was determined.
This is
Western
the West
Conference.
Yes.
Yeah, you're in Dallas. I can tell. I can tell by the suite, how sweet it is.
What I just saw there? I just saw a little glimpse of the Eastern media. You don't even know the West exists. It's really.
And I get it. Yeah, and that's a fair shot because I just watch the game to its conclusion, including the handshake debacle, which I don't want to set you off on. We'll save that post-analysis of last night's game between Florida and Carolina. But that was just kind of going through my mind as we get set for the Oilers and the Dallas Stars. Before we get into, Ray, the Tim Hortons headlines, often we reach out to just stories and things and scenarios that are deeply impacting people around the world, right? I mean, look, we pay attention to what's going on. So I know we're feeling for the great people in Manitoba affected by the forest fires, and you get it as a resident of British Columbia. Man, It rips through that interior almost on an annual basis, and it's heartbreaking. It affects so many people. Province of Manitoba declared a state of emergency on Wednesday with 22 active fires. Over 17,000 people have been evacuated from their homes in certain areas of Manitoba. Personally, for me, I'm not worried about property. It's about 3.5-4 hours north of the Cabbage, our place on Lake of the Prairies. But for those, and I know there are many of them because they reach out to us on our social channels, Ray, we're thinking about you and we're hoping for the best. And above all else, praying for rain because that would go a long way in trying to settle things down and getting people back in their homes.
Man, you mentioned through British Columbia the last couple of years. Last year was relatively good, I guess.
Yeah.
But there's a helplessness to it when you watch it and you wake up and you look like the wind down. Is there any potential for rain? Like any of that stuff that could help these firefighters? And by the way, the people that are affected, you think of them, the firefighters, like this is not easy nor safe work.
No.
And they're in there doing their thing. Just wish the best for everybody in Manitoba right now.
Absolutely. We're thinking about you all involved. All right. On to the Tim Hortons headlines. Is a bit of a distraction, all of that. For the third straight year, Ray, the Florida Panthers are going to the Stanley Cup Final. I mean, can we call it a new age dynasty in the making? Perhaps. We know Carolina is a good team. The Toronto Maple Leafs, a good team. Tampa Bay, many picked the Lightning to beat the Florida Panthers in round one. How do you explain this level of Florida Panthers success? Not just this year, but the last few years.
Well, I look back 4 years ago and Tampa was in the middle of 3 straight trips to the final. And, I know there's a lot written about, the advantages they have building their team with the tax breaks, et cetera, and no state tax and in Florida. But really what it, in my mind, what it comes down to is that you put a good team together. And if you hit the sweet spot where the contracts fit and the players are at the right ages that they can put multiple years together and you have health, there's a lot of factors. I think it's far too simplistic to say, they get a tax break and that's why they're in the finals. Well, then why don't other no state tax teams get to the finals? They've put together an excellent team that will get stressed this year in the offseason. Financially, right? Even with the cap up, they're gonna have to make some decisions. They're a well put together team. They're well coached. Their players have a great sense of what they each individually have to throw in to be all in, which is really what they are. I mean, they play an exemplary team game. They really do.
Yeah. Well, look, Carolina tried, man. They pushed. They came out ready for this game and to stave off elimination. Climbed to a 2-0 lead after the first period. But then you go back to Florida. And one of the most impressive characteristics of the Panthers, there's no panic. There's a sense of calm, even though they knew that there'd be push from Carolina, and there was. Then Matthew Tkachuk sparks the power play with a nice deflection. Second period. 30 seconds later, Rodriguez ties the game. Lundell then scores to give Florida the 3-2 lead going into the third. Right. And you're like, all right, I guess that's Panthers hockey, and here they go.
Yeah, except then Seth Jarvis scored. Man, I loved his goal, by the way. Jarvis is the way he just kind of really patient with his hands. And so what I saw in that game was like, there's a fine line with Florida because they do try to bully the game, right? Like they're big and physical and they play as groups of 5 all over the place. You can't really engage them because you don't have the same team, but you can't let them run roughshod either. And I think in the first couple of games, Carolina got just completely overwhelmed. And finally, they, like in game 4, and into game 5, like they punched back.
Yeah.
Like they were like, enough. And maybe had they gotten to that a little earlier in the series would be longer. I still think Florida was going to win. But I was pretty impressed. At 2-0, Kotkaniemi takes a goofy penalty, one that he really...
Tough penalty to take.
Yeah, you just can't take it. And then boom, it's in the net. Then it's 2-1. So one thing Florida, of the things they're good at, is they can strike quick. They get one, they get another, and then they turn the momentum. Carolina's totally okay until they make a bad read. Like the read was bad of over-aggression. Like Martinook thinks he's got to go hit Tkachuk. He doesn't. His guy's Rodriguez. Nikishin's already committed to Tkachuk on the boards. As soon as Martinook goes through, now it's a 2-on-1. And they don't miss, right? And you're like, oh, here you go, right? And it's like they're just such a good 18-man, like on that night, 18-man team. They really play the team game really, really well. And again, for about the 5th time in these playoffs, I don't know where this Nico Mikkola has come from, but man, he's like a stork out there. Right. He's so big, but he gets around, and now he's making plays, and he's really been he's maybe been the most impactful guy for me that I didn't expect in this run. Last year they lose a couple of defensemen, right? Somebody's got to replace those minutes. Yes, they get Seth Jones, but Mikkola can't be just like the number 4 guy you never notice. He needs to be more. And Maurice has said this is his most all-around complete year. And I think that's pretty evident.
Well, and he said as part of the pregame interview with Kyle Bukauskas, Maurice talked about how he seems to be getting better, right? As they go through every game, each series now into the Stanley Cup Final, he's getting better. And he joked, but he speaks a language, which is a good thing on the bench that nobody seems to understand. They have no idea what he's saying, but, it's a bit of comedic relief as well.
Well, I mentioned to you the other day that Kapanen was yelling at Hintz in Finnish, and it's the most complicated sounding language there is. It's like
kind of violent though too, like angry.
Yeah, it's kind of like but it kind of like it's choppy and short, and then when they mix English into it, it becomes its own thing. Like the most famous, of course, was Esa Tikkanen, and nobody knew what the hell he was talking about, and that was in English. Yeah, that was in English, and so it's an interesting language. So there probably a couple times, probably when he's angry. He's probably half Finnish, half English, and it's really something to hear. It's kind of a funny aside.
How about Carter Verhaeghe? And we've mentioned him on the podcast for a variety of reasons. Obviously, the contributions in the playoffs. He scores his 6, which gives the Panthers the edge. But you've referenced the word team in recognition of the success of the Panthers. And yeah, by Verhaeghe's standards, 20 goals in the regular season is an off year, but hasn't hampered him. And it obviously didn't sway the confidence of Paul Maurice and the coaching staff of the Florida Panthers in Verhaeghe, because this guy has scored some real big goals to this point of the postseason for Florida.
There's many examples around the league of guys like Verhaeghe. And it's a lesson for fans when they look at their players and they're saying that guy sucks and this guy's no good and we got to get rid of this guy, and they're all like 21 years old and 22 years old, like they've been draft picks and they haven't hit yet. Verhaeghe was a draft pick of Toronto, and then he went to Tampa, and then Tampa couldn't sign him, and Florida picked him up and signed him on a minimal deal for 2 years, and then he's turned into 35 goal Verhaeghe. But he's also, what he's really turned into is a playoff player.
Yes.
And there are times when he goes a little quiet and he plays kind of an odd, it's a really hard to describe game. But when he gets the puck, he knows how to go straight to the net. He doesn't look around and defer. He's thinking shot. He's got good size. It was found money at the start. Now it comes under the category of really good pro scouting to say that's
Absolutely.
a guy we should take a shot at. And now here they got him signed last year for 7 years. And again, to this team thing, you get 20 goals. That's not a great year for him. And somebody else picked it up. Reinhart went from 60 goals to whatever he had this year. Like, it doesn't seem to matter. They're in this sweet spot, and they deserve to be where they are now.
All right. Post game, we watched it live, but I mean, there's video now for anybody who's listening or following us on YouTube of Paul Maurice and Rod Brind'Amour shaking hands immediately after the buzzer. Now, Paul Maurice has made it clear that he doesn't believe coaches and staff should participate in the series-ending ceremonial handshake. I want your response and opinion to that in just a moment, but here's Paul Maurice explaining why.
I don't believe that the coaches should shake players' hands at the end. There's this long list of people in suits and tracksuits. I mean, we had like 400 people on the ice. They're all really important to our group, but not one of them was in the game. There's something for me visually with the camera on of just the men who played, who blocked shots, who fought for each other. It's the end of one season. It's excitement for the other. The last thing that a player on the Carolina Hurricanes deserves is 50 more guys in suits they have. They have no idea who they are, and that's not a negative. There should be something really kind of beautiful about just the camera on those men who played shaking hands, and we should respect that. So,
I mean, Brind'Amour again. We can't read lips and all of the he didn't look as okay with it as Paul just described. Whether he was doesn't really matter now. It's over. But what are your thoughts on Paul's point of view on this?
I don't agree. I think the coaches should be in the handshake line. I don't think the trainers should be. The trainers should meet in front of the benches. Like, they have their group. They're really tight. Like, you'd be surprised how much they help each other with all the various tasks they have just to get everything ready. The medical guys are always checking in each period. Do you need our doctor? Do you have your doctor? All that stuff. I think they should meet in like right in front of the benches. The coaches are part of it. The players know who the coaches are. They don't need to shake hands with the goaltending department and the assistant general manager to the assistant general manager. They don't need to do that. But there's 4 coaches on the bench, so it's not 400 guys. It's 4 extra hands to shake. I think if I were coaching, I would, win or lose, would like to acknowledge the other team in the fact that, Sebastian Aho, you had a hell of a series. Really great playoff. All the best. like
Yeah.
just that, and then you move along. That's my feeling that I think the coaches should be at the end of those lines,
Yeah.
but it should be the guys on the bench, not the general manager, because the players don't know who those guys are on other teams. And so it's everybody that you've seen and fought against for 2 weeks, you congratulate or wish best in the next series, or, shake. It doesn't, if you look at the players, they're not all stopping for a 10-second conversation. There's a few of those in the line, and that's it. Everybody else is like, good series, good luck. That's pretty much it. I think they should be in. I really do. My opinion is they should be in there.
Well, and you're a former player, so there's validity to that experience. From a media perspective, I think that the National Hockey League has done a decent job of pulling the curtain back, right? And we have camera angles for everything now. We've got behind the scenes shows, which for the most part are enlightening and very, very entertaining. And then you have moments. And we had one of those moments between Dallas and Winnipeg when Pete DeBoer, the head coach of the Dallas Stars, acknowledged to Mark Scheifele his sincere and heartfelt sympathies for Mark, who just learned of the passing of his father. All right, okay, that's a non-hockey exchange, but you can't convince me that wasn't an important 2 seconds for Pete DeBoer to get that message to Mark Scheifele.
Well, for sure. I think if anybody thinks of that series, that would probably be one of the top couple of moments that would pop right into their head was the way they came together and discussed, the passing of Scheifele's father. I do think there are times when, everybody wants to respect the people that do the work behind the scenes that you just don't see. And it's their time too. But they don't need to be in the handshake line. The coaches are in there. They're on. If you're in the square of the bench,
you're part of the fight.
And a player, you're part of the fight.
Yeah.
And if the trainers, if they don't want to have the 3 or 4 or 5 trainers join the line because the players don't know who they are, they can acknowledge each other and the work, the fine work, the important work they do. They can acknowledge each other and wish best of luck and such right in front of the benches. But I think they should. I think they belong there.
All right. Well, nice reprieve for Paul Maurice and the Florida Panthers as they sit back now and rest and await the victor of the Western Conference, Game 5 tonight in Dallas. You've got the Oilers, the Dallas Stars, the Stanley Cup Final expected to start next Wednesday, Game 1. So looking forward to that. Likely return. And we're recording this episode Thursday morning. So this information is going to be out there sooner than later. But we anticipate the return of Mattias Ekholm to the Edmonton Oilers blue line. But first, Ray, I want to talk with the loss of Zach Hyman. That is a player that is not just easily replaced, he's irreplaceable in terms of the way he plays and the influence and the impact that he has in the outcome of games for the Oilers.
He's super well respected in that Oilers room. They know what Zach brings. You can tell they lean on him pretty heavily. He's had a tremendous playoff. The second he skated by me, I'm standing in a place that's a privileged space. I know he's done. I'm not going to report it because I think it's an invasion of the Oilers' privacy.
Good for you.
I know he's done right when he walks by me. I hear him talking to the athletic therapist on the way. I know he's done. I can't say that it's not right. No. Now, some people might think, oh, well, you've got to report what you see, but
nope.
Not in that case. It's not respectful to Zach nor the Oilers. They'll make their statement when they're going to make it, which quickly they said he's not returning tonight. And I think we knew probably right away from the way Chris Knobloch spoke after the game that
it wasn't good.
That was not going to turn out good. Huge loss for him. I'm looking at who comes into the lineup, how they do it. I would think Evander Kane will get a little bit of run up there in that position. I'm curious. Like Corey Perry was awesome.
So good. Yeah.
But I do wonder, I'm thinking like when I woke up today, I'm a little tired, right? I'm
yeah.
You know,
it's been a long run.
It's been a long run. I work out pretty hard. And so, but I'm sore. And I'm like, Corey Perry is 40 years old. He played one hell of a game the other night. I'm like, how is he going to feel today?
Oh boy.
But there's not many players that travel less and do more in a game. Like he knows where he's got to be and where he's got to skate to. He doesn't try and forecheck corner to corner. He does not do that. But his brain for the game puts him in the right place. If you look at his goal the other night, he knows, like, he's leaning in there and he knows Cece's leaning on him. And as soon as Nuge breaks free off the wall, he makes that one little spin, right? He moved 2 feet and now he's open. His stick is open and it's in the net. Like he plays a real clever style because he has to.
So good.
And so maybe Perry and Kane start flipping around in there. They've got Arvidsson as well. I do think Knobloch does a really good job, and Glenn Gulletson, who runs the forwards, they do a really good job of putting players in and out and move. Their lines are, if you charted the Oilers' lines in the game, you'd run out of paper because
it's all over the place.
It's all over the place, but they're like, oh, we need this for this part of the game, and those two guys go together. And you know, McDavid and Hyman are pretty much tied together. Like they're out there all the time. So that's the space they have to fill. Everything else will kind of backfill around it. But if they get Ekholm back, a really good Oilers defense is going to be better because he's really good. I wonder, do they play 7D? Do they, to protect him a bit? I'm going to throw a little shout out here for Troy Stetcher, who's had a really great playoff. He had a quote the other day that I thought was like, we're talking about Florida being a selfless team and being a real team. Stetcher said, if Ekholm comes back and I'm the guy out, he goes, well, let's be honest, he's a better player than me.
So good.
And I'm like, man, what an amazing perspective. Because when that guy goes into the lineup, you get 101% of what he has. Everything that he has is right there. And he knows he might be the guy coming out. And he's like, well, that's just the way it is. And so I just wanted to mention him. I thought that was a pretty awesome way.
Oh, excellent point. And again, the sacrifices that you have to make this time of year to win, right? Because again, the theme of the episode is team. Well, you put the team first. And I wonder, and we'll know sooner than later here, whether that's the approach they take. With all due respect to Jeff Skinner, he would be the body that would come in if you're not going 11-7, correct? Expected.
I would think so. Yeah. I would think so. I don't really know what the other options might be. And they're completely different players, right?
Completely, yeah.
And so that's another part too, is that, could they find a different way to align themselves, I guess, but I guess
maybe
we'll find
Jones, right? There are options, but we'll see. They'll make
Jones. Somebody like Jones feels like more of an option against Florida than against Dallas. Just the way that the opponent would be shaped.
Yeah. All right. Well, some old school tactics in this series, not in abundance, but just situational stuff, right? And maybe it started with Darnell Nurse and the slash on Rupe Hintz. Then in game 4, we saw Evan Bouchard tag Hintz on the foot on a line change. I mean, I guess it's headline stuff in today's world because everything is caught on cameras. But it's not nasty and vile and dirty and line crossing stuff, is it? I mean, I back in your day, come on. If you knew that player X had a sore wrist or foot or whatever off the face-off, what do you do? You're trying to catch him in some way, shape, or form.
It is a little dirty. It is a little cheap. It is a little, I don't know, over the line, but that's the game. Like, I think a lot of people want the game to be played like on this straight and narrow way. It just isn't. Like, do you think if you think of the real contact sports, do you think we see everything that goes on in a football game?
No.
I had a buddy that I played with. His name's Tim Lorenz, who played with the Portland Winterhawks. He went on and played football at the University of Hawaii and then played in the CFL. And he's like, when there's a fumble, he goes, that ball is changing hands 3 times in that pile. Do you know what's going on in there? And I'm like, no, I guess I don't. And so the one thing, so in my day, that happened a lot. This is one of the reasons we get upper and lower body stuff is because the league doesn't want targeted response. The other thing that happened, and again, I'm in that privileged spot, is before the second period, I see Chris Rooney skate over to the Oiler bench, and I'm like, oh, I wonder what he's doing there. So I take off my headset and I'm listening, and he's telling. And we have video of it. We talked about it in the game because I thought it was important. Was he's telling Bouchard and Chris Knobloch, enough, no more of that.
Yeah.
Because if he lets it go, then it's going to turn into something worse.
Sure.
If he steps on it, it should end it. And if it doesn't, that little poke on the foot, which is never a penalty anywhere else, is going to be
right.
one.
Yeah.
And then he's telling them, he didn't say this, but basically the story is, don't do it or you're going to get a penalty and you can't complain because I just told you. And it was done. I mean, I didn't see any more of it really, or maybe I missed it. But I didn't see
like, would it be the series supervisor? Because obviously, Rooney probably didn't see it when it happened. It was on a line change. But you go into the intermission and somebody, comes down and say, "Hey, by the way, you may want to
well,
address
you know
this
what, Drake?
before we get into this."
I don't know that, to be honest with you. Don Van Massenhoven, the ex-official, is the supervisor for this series. I'm going to try and find out because that's a really good point. Like, how did they come to that? Like, somebody had to notice it eventually.
For sure.
And it didn't really bother Hintz. I don't know if he's put some protection on his foot, but it didn't really bother them.
Didn't seem to.
No, but I mean, the intent was there. He's not trying to break his foot. He's trying to make his foot sore again. Is really
well, good on Hintz though, because I mean, your instant reaction could have been a two-hander going back the other way, right? But he's kind of went, okay.
No, but he's now one of the guys. Now we're into game 5. Your life's on the line here for the season, and he didn't have a shot attempt in game 4. Like, Dallas has got too many guys that just haven't given them enough. They were really good in game 4.
Yeah,
especially in the first period. That was Stu Skinner, like, that kept that game where it was. He was excellent. But Dallas can keep telling themselves they're playing better, they're playing better, they're playing better. There is no road.
Right.
They've scored 2 goals in 3 games. Is it 6 goals? Let me just look here. Is this kind of they've got 5 goals in the third period of game 1.
Yeah.
Right? And they've got 3 goals in the rest of the series. Like, whatever you want to say, tactics, this, that, and they got to find a way to shoot the puck in the net a little bit. And if they don't, they're cooked.
Yeah, and so well, predictions don't really matter, but it doesn't feel like a 5-game series, does it? It doesn't.
No,
I mean, we'll see, but
it just doesn't. And if you think back to the finals last year, when the series was 3-0,
yeah.
do you remember how game 1 of the finals went? Edmonton was awesome, and Bobrovsky was more awesome.
Yeah,
they got goalie.
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden, boom, boom, it's 3-0. You're like, well, how did that happen? And so there's a funny way to look at a series where you can't panic, but as the great Yogi Berra used to say, it gets late early, and it's late for Dallas.
I did the Jason Strudwick show on Wednesday as part of the segment Struddy's Buddies, right?
Oh,
and he asked
good.
the question.
Congratulations, you're one of the buddies. Good for you.
I'm one of the buddies, yeah. Noodles and I, Jamie McLennan and I alternate every other Wednesday, so a couple of times a month. And look, I mean, we're in the conference finals. One just ended in the East, the West, we'll see. But we're in that area where you do have to start thinking about Conn Smythe candidates. And he asked the question, and it kind of caught me by surprise. I'm like, geez, I haven't even really started thinking about that yet, even though we're right on the cusp here of getting the Stanley Cup Final going on. So, I mean, I kind of went all over the map. I didn't really have a hard answer. I didn't have a.
Oh, he got you by surprise, contender. You're saying?
He caught me by surprise. And like,
right.
I don't know. I mean, like he submitted Evan Bouchard could be in the conversation. Well, why shouldn't
he
be?
I'm gonna hang on. I'm gonna agree. He should be. But what I'm laughing at is, of course, the defenseman is going to say the defenseman, right? Like it's like, oh, Struddy, you're so predictable.
I'm surprised Nurse wasn't automatic for the slash on Rupe Hintz, because I know Struddy loved that. Dude, takes him back to the good old days. I mean, is there an obvious candidate for you? Is there somebody that, I mean, it's not that easy. It isn't right now. You've got guys who are contributing on a regular basis, but hasn't been a great deal of separation yet.
No, I mean, like, are we talking like for the whole thing or just for the West?
No, whole thing. I mean, see, now you're living my pain yesterday. I'm like,
so let's see, could it be? I would say Barkov and Tkachuk.
Okay.
On that side.
See, I thought Bennett was really strong earlier.
Bennett's a great call. Could Seth Jones be on the outside of that?
Maybe. Yeah.
Bennett probably has scored the most impactful goals. McDavid, Bouchard, Bouchard to me is one of the most confounding players to try and figure out.
Yeah.
Because during the regular season, there are times he's just meandering around out there. I'm like it's, I don't even really know what he's doing, because you're like,
well, first couple of games of the LA series, he looked discombobulated and lost.
You're like, he's so good. What's he doing?
Yeah.
And then you go, ugh, he's back. Like, he's been awesome.
Really good.
He would be in the conversation. I mean, the guy leading the playoffs in points is probably in the conversation too. If Edmonton's going to win, like, is somebody going to stand so far in front? Here's one thing for you.
Okay.
What if, now this would be bizarre. What if Edmonton wins 3-1 tonight, and then they get to the final and they win 4-2, and in the 6 games, Stu Skinner gives up 11 goals? If the other
he
goalie
could play his way into that,
but if the other goalie won 6 games, could you be you can't be with? Can you?
I
mean, I don't even know, right? But what if his goals against average is 1.88, which it could be by the time. I don't know. There is no standalone guy this year for sure.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, those are your headlines. Thank you to Tim Hortons. And as we let you get on your way into the day, prepping for Game 5, you have no skin in the game here, other than we all have selfish wants and needs. And, a shorter series might be great personally because of this. Or are you more the traditionalist where, man, I'm in it. I'm not doing the Stanley Cup Final.
Yeah.
I'd really like to see this thing go 7, just because of the theater.
Honestly,
of the
Drakes,
game.
I've stopped doing that because, as you know from many, many, many years of covering, whatever you hope for,
yeah,
you get stabbed in the foot, and you're like last year, it's 3-0.
Yeah,
right. So the game's in Edmonton. I'm like, there's no way we could finish here, is there? And I could go home.
That would have been
because it was late last year, right? It was late
Mm-hmm.
last year. And once you get by Game 4, each game is at 3 days because of the 2-day break.
Right.
I ran into Kenny Holland in the hallway before Game 3 in the morning. So we're talking about whatever. And he goes, oh, I know what you're hoping for tonight. He says it was 3-0. And I said, well, and he goes, well, screw you. He goes, we got to win tonight. And like, he was like, too bad for you. And so I don't even care. I do have flights booked to Vancouver and to
of course,
Edmonton.
You have to.
For tomorrow. And the Vancouver flight, I will say, is way early because if it's over, I want to go home.
Yeah.
And if not, I'll just go to Edmonton and do Game 6, and it'll be amazing to do. One thing that is not lost on me, Dregs, is like, this is the best what we do. Like,
agreed.
I'm in the best place to do these games, and if I've got to do 3 more games this year, that's a great thing. If I do one, it's got nothing to do with me, and then I'll go home and watch on TV and play golf. But I am. It's just being at this point is just the best, and so
it is. And
I think Dallas will. I think Dallas will punch hard tonight. I really do. But as we spoke earlier, the whole secret to this is, can they find a way to score? They've had enough chances. They just don't score. And I don't know if there's a secret sauce for that.
No, and look, Brind'Amour talked about it after being eliminated last night. He got a little snarky with, all the questions were based on, they had a negative tone, right? I mean, you lose, there are lots of questions about how you lost, the season, all of those things. And then somebody asked about how difficult it is. And the fact that they got to the conference final is a big deal. And that perked him up. And he answered about how challenging the year was in Carolina. I just feel like when you get to the Final Four, I mean, the investment made by everyone to get there, I want the series to go 6 games. 4 or 5 to me it's not right because of how hard the players and everybody have played to get to that place. So I'd be okay with 6. 6 would be fine.
One thing I will say is, there's all these articles that get written and people talk about, that you failed and if you get to the Final Four, it is.
Come on.
I played for 18 years. I got there once.
Jeez.
And there are lots of people that never get there.
Yeah.
And it is just, there's so much. Your team has to be good. The timing has to be right. You need to be lucky health-wise.
Yeah.
The other team probably doesn't play quite as well as they should. Like, there's a whole bunch of things. You got to get a few calls here and there. You got to get a couple bounces.
All of it.
All of it. And so as good as Florida is, I'm sure they'll tell you there were moments they got a good bounce. They got a good call. They got a good save. Whatever it was. And they're 4 wins away from winning again. It's good for them, and it's a tough one for Carolina. And now they got to go in the offseason again and figure out, can we find a way to climb the next hurdle? Because they can't quite get past it.
Right. All right, Game 5 of the West tonight. You, my friend, have a great call.
Thank you much, Dregs. Be well, everybody. Thanks for listening. And next time we talk, the finals will be set.
Will be. It will be a Stanley Cup preview on the Ray and Dregs Hockey Podcast. Thank you to our sponsors who continue to support Ray and Dregs and make it possible. Our title sponsor, Tim Hortons, thank you. And thank you to Akon as well. Until next time, stay safe, everybody.